Let me tell you a story about a man named Amon-Ra St. The reason I bring up Amon-Ra is we were doing some live drafts the other night, and it got brought to my attention that maybe this guy isn't a touchdown machine. And this little debate got kicked off when Underdog dropped their season rival Pick'em higher lows, and Amon-Ra is pitted up against Pat Fryermuth for touchdowns. But still, this got me talking on the live stream. Hey, this is disrespectful to Amon-Ra. This is a smash on Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Smitty, I might add. They'll match up to $100 on your first deposit. Use the link in the description or code Smitty and go after this higher low. This is a smash to me. On the live stream, I said, it's not that I hate Pat Fryermuth. I love him, but this is just not a category Amon-Ra should be thrown into with only a 0.5 adjustment. Meaning if Amon-Ra scores 7 touchdowns and Patty Boy scores 5, you win. It caused some controversy because I had a caller on the phone. I had 2 callers on the phone. 2 of the usual boys that said he might not be a touchdown guy, Smitty. He only scored 6 touchdowns in 2022, Smitty. He only scored 5 touchdowns in 2021.
Smitty.
He's no lock for a 10-plus touchdown season.
Smitty.
And I get on the surface, you might think that by looking at 6 and 5. But I'm about to give you evidence and a reason why. You can count on Amon-Ra St. to be a double-digit touchdown getter in 2023. And might I add, top 5 potential touchdown getter for all wide receivers in 2023. Therefore making
this an absolute slam dunk.
In my mind, that's just my opinion. But if I'm you, I'm going over to Underdog and I'm hitting that higher on Amon-Ra St. rival versus Pat Fryermuth. Or I'm just going to hit that higher on his 5.5 touchdown line. Because Amon-Ra St. is, in my mind, assuming he doesn't miss the entire season with an injury or go down really early with a season-long injury, he is a near lock for over 5 touchdowns. That's crazy. This 5 touchdown higher is based on his 5 and 6 touchdown seasons. It's not based on what his potential is. They're going off of pure numbers and what has he done over the last 2 years. This is where I think there's an advantage point, a weak spot in these kind of things, and you can take advantage of it when there's 2 years of data and no one's deep diving into the data, which we're about to do to prove that Amon-Ra is a double-digit touchdown machine. And it's going to happen in 2023. But if you love Pat Fryermuth, if you think Patty's going to drop a 10 touchdown season, then we don't have a beef, you and I. I'm merely telling you, okay, you don't want to go that route, go this route. Go higher than 5 touchdowns on Amon-Ra St. Solo. Not pitted against another player in the rival contest. Use the straight higher low contest. 5 touchdowns, Amon-Ra, higher. That prediction is going based off of his 6 and 5 touchdown seasons. It's not looking at the reasons why he only had 6 and 5 touchdowns. It's not looking at the potential possibility he could explode over that number. The system is merely looking at what has he done. What has he done? That's probably what he's going to do, but this is a grave mistake. I am right now about to tell you why Amon-Ra St. is going to crush 6-7 touchdowns. I'm going to tell you why Amon-Ra St. might just be a top 3 to 5 wide receiver in touchdowns in 2023. The Fantasy Football Show begins right now.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Take a lap.
All right, here's the thing that I think people need to understand about Underdog. Underdog is responsible for looking at the averages and what is likely in front of them based on what is behind them. It's this show's responsibility to call out the ahead of the curve stuff. In defense of Underdog, setting a line of 5 touchdowns for St. in 2023, a number he's going to explode over. He's just going to obliterate that number. In defense, he scored 6 in 2022, 5 in 2021. And that's all they're going to go off. Underdog and algorithms aren't digging into the human factor of what is the upside? What is the ability for this guy to improve upon a number like that? They're just going to say, hey, we got a pattern here. And on the surface, a lot of people might say, I can't disagree with them. But if you deep dive into what St. has done, if we look at his 2021 breakout season, where he really turned it on at the end of the year, he didn't get a chance to become the guy until very late in the season. In week 13, he had a touchdown and 86 yards, 10 receptions on 12 targets. 73 yards and no touchdowns in week number 14, but he had 12 targets. In week number 15 against the Cardinals, he had 90 yards and a touchdown, 11 targets. Look at these target totals from week 13 on. This was not last year. This was the year prior, where he broke out in weeks 13 through 18. 12 targets, 12 targets, 11 targets, 11 targets, 11 targets, 10 targets. Look at these reception totals. 10, 8, 8, 9, 8, 8. Yardage was insane. Touchdown in every single game but this week 14 game, but he made up for it by running for a touchdown in week 17, scoring a total of 6 touchdowns in 6 games. So Amon-Ra St. Brown was an absolute touchdown monster from the minute that he was given the full-time role. The targets, look at the targets. Look at the target difference from weeks 1 all the way down to week number 12. We're talking about 4, 5, 1. He did have some big games where he had 8 targets in weeks 4 and 5, and he had good yardage. But then he's back down to 0 and 5. The bye week in week 9, 6 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets. Then he was unleashed in weeks 13 through 18. When he's been the guy, he's exploded, proven by having 6 total touchdowns, double-digit targets every single week, and insane reception totals of 10, 8, 8, 9, 8, 8, 2 100-yard games, 2 90-yard games. The guy was an absolute marvel at the end of his breakout season. Again, not doing anything really substantial until week 13 when he was given the keys to the starting lineup as the #1 wide receiver in Detroit. So take this into 2022. We're pumping this guy up on the Moon Man list. We love Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to be a 10, 13 touchdown wide receiver monster coming off of his breakout year where he scored 6 touchdowns in 6 games. And only Justin Jefferson was scoring more fantasy points than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown was arguably, depending on the scoring you look at, the #2 wide receiver, not just overall, pretty much every single week he was in the top 3 or 4 wide receivers, often #1 or #2 in weeks 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Only JJ on average was better than him during that span. Again, going into 2022 last season. We're excited about what this guy just delivered. We're amped up. We've got him on the Moon Men list. What does he do right out of the gate in 2022? 12 targets in week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles. 12 targets in week 2 against the Washington Commanders. 64 yards and a touchdown in that week 1. 116 and 2 touchdowns in that week 2 battle. But also 68 yards rushing on 2 carries. Amon-Ra St. Brown was the #1 wide receiver essentially in fantasy football through 2 weeks. 64 and a touchdown, 116 and 2 touchdowns and 68 yards. We're walking into week 3 thinking this man is going to be not only a top 5 wide receiver, a top 1 to 5 wide receiver in touchdown productions, because I just showed you that he scored 6 total touchdowns in the final 6 games in his breakout year in 2021. And now in 2022, he started off hotter than he finished with 3 touchdowns in 2 games. At this point before he got hurt, and he did get hurt and hurt his ankle very badly, that hampered him all year long, which is why you're going to see his drop off. Before he got injured, he had 9 touchdowns in 8 games, which is not a small sample size to pull from, which if you extrapolate across an entire season's 19 touchdowns in a season. I'm not saying he's going to score 19 touchdowns in 2023. I'm merely saying when somebody says he's not a touchdown guy, like Scared Scott on the phone saying, Smitty, he's not a touchdown guy. He has 8 straight games from his breakout season until his injury last year, proving he's not only top 5, he's the #1 touchdown getter in the National Football League. And you could then say, Smitty, well, let's take a look at the rest of this and go, okay, 0 touchdowns. Obviously, he got hurt. Didn't play week number 4 because of the injury. Still was hampered, getting 18 yards, 4 catches, no touchdowns. Bye week, still hampered in week 7, 4 yards. Disappointing greatly, but he was injured. Never really getting back on his horse until about week 10, at which point he has 119 yards, no touchdowns still, 76 yards, no touchdowns, 9 catches for 122, 1 touchdown, 11 catches for 114, 2 touchdowns. Still hampered, might I add, and getting no touchdowns from week 14 through week 18. Still hampered, still injured. Also, you got to factor in that the Lions were in some sort of crazy, astronomically hard to predict, never going to happen again goal line touchdown phase where Jamal Williams got 17 touchdowns on the ground and had an unbelievable, never to be repeated again percentage of 5-yard rushes in a season that we probably won't see again for a long time. They were on the 1-yard line, the 5-yard line, the 4-yard line constantly. St. Brown getting tackled multiple times around the 1-yard line. There were a crazy amount of reasons why St. Brown didn't get touchdown opportunities that he surely will get in 2023 back last year. The injury hampered him all year. That made it hard for him to get touchdowns. He did do it in a couple weeks. I just showed you. He proved in week 12 and week 13 he can still get clusters of touchdowns, 3 in a 2-game time frame. He proved he's still a double-digit target monster. And if you look at this string of no touchdowns and this string of no touchdowns, not factoring in his injury or Jamal Williams getting all those rushing touchdowns, abnormal amounts of rushing touchdowns. If you look at all that and you don't see this string of games right here, 3 touchdowns, big yardage, coupled with the season prior where he literally went on a league-leading tear for touchdowns and yardage and fantasy football points. If you can't see the upside there and the reasons for why we're waiting on him to score 12 and 15 touchdown seasons, I don't know that I can help you. I don't know that I want to help you because I want to keep St. Brown's ADP at bay. Jamison Williams is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. The Lions will be leaning upon St. Brown in 2023 in weeks 1 through week 6 in a way that you just can't measure. And Jamison coming back won't threaten St. Brown's numbers. St. Brown's going to have a foothold on the number 1 target share. He's proved it his entire time on the field. When he's getting full-time opportunities, look at the target share. The target share is through the roof. He's an 8 to 12 target share monster. He's a touchdown in almost every game monster when he's on the field and healthy. And defenses are going to be so preoccupied with every facet of this Detroit Lions offense. And Jahmyr Gibbs is going to line up all over the place. Defenses won't be able to worry about containing St. Brown on some sort of lockdown level. He will be roaming all over the field. This coaching staff has already said in Detroit that we're going to get St. Brown the football all over the field. We're going to move him all over the field. We're going to stretch the field with St. Brown. Same thing with Jahmyr Gibbs. They're going to be moving everybody all over the place. Defenses won't be able to shut down or lock down any one of these weapons on a consistent basis. This right here, 6 and 5 touchdowns, will be the anomaly when we reflect back on it. It's not Underdog's fault that they're going off of an average, but it's up to us to identify where these weak points are in the higher low line on Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty. And it's my job to point them out so that you can go apply the logic. As much as I love drafting, and we're going to continue to draft every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, midnight Eastern, that's when we draft here on the Fantasy Football Show. Live drafts on Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty. Enter that promo code or click that link in the description and get up to $100 bonus match. But not only will we be drafting every Thursday, Friday, Saturday here on the channel, I think where some of the best opportunity to win money and crush it on Underdog, as much as I love drafts and we're going to win that too, is on the higher or lower contest, because you have control. It's you against a number. It's you against the logic of that number. It's not against 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 people. Again, we'll dominate those too, but this is where you're going against a line, a number where you say to yourself, he's going to blow this number out of the water. It's you against a number that has been calculated based on a different assumption about the player. It's between you and a line, one-on-one. It's between you and this higher or lower line of 5 touchdowns for Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's between you and this higher lower line of 4 TDs for Dotson, or better yet, 800.5 receiving yards for Jahan Dotson. It's between you and a line of 6 receiving touchdowns, or better yet, a 855-yard line, which Calvin Ridley's going to crush. Drake London, 850 yards, give me the higher. Jahmyr Gibbs, 580 rushing yards. It's between you and that line, not 300,000 people. I'm not saying drafts aren't amazing. We will clean up in fantasy football drafts, and drafts are why we do all of this. But let me tell you right now, if you want an advantage here on Underdog, or dropping any sort of cash on fantasy, on football, whatever, it's things like Jahmyr Gibbs, 580 rushing yards. These are all real lines. Breece Hall, 850.5 0.5 rushing yards. Smash the over. This one's crazy too. Saquon Barkley, 975 rushing yards. These are like taking candy from a baby. Click the link in the description for goodness sakes. Use promo code Smitty and get that $100 up to $100 bonus match. And go play these right now. You put all 5 of them on one slip and you get them all right. 20 times multiplier of your money. That's right, you drop 5 of these insanely easy higher lows, in my opinion, on one slip. Every $5 will equal 100, $20 will equal 400, 20 times multiplier, just getting 5 of these bad boys right on one slip. Go try it. And don't forget they added rivals as well, where you're rivaling, which kind of kickstarted all of this when we're debating fryermuth versus St. Brown. The rivals are a real interesting way to do higher and lower. Click on St. Brown versus Pat Fryermuth in a rival receiving touchdown battle where Fryermuth is only getting 0.5 touchdown adjustment. He's going to crush Fryermuth, and this is not a knock on Fryermuth. This is more of me saying that his touchdown line doesn't belong in the category of a tight end. A tight end that I believe is very undervalued. This guy's a top 10 tight end, Fryermuth. Let's be real. And yet he's not being ranked inside the top 10. He's actually got an ADP outside of 10, right around 10, 11, 12, depending on the ADP data you look at. And so an underrated tight end that is not even getting respect is being pitted against a wide receiver that's also not getting respect. How disrespectful is it to pit this guy's 5 touchdown prediction against Fryermuth, who they don't even respect and no one respects enough walking into 2023. This is not against Fryermuth. I love Fryermuth, and he could have a 5 or 6 touchdown season, 7 touchdown season, and he could be one of the bigger steals in fantasy football tight end drafting in 2023. But the disrespect to Amon-Ra St. Brown needs to be noted, called out, and you all need to go take advantage of it on Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 1,300 yards, well over 105 to 110 receptions, and I'm going to say 12 to 14 touchdowns in 2023. Chew on that.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Take a lap.